And hello. Hello, world. Oh, I'm waiting for your questions. I'm here for an hour. You've got me, so make the best of it. What can I help you with? I don't want to answer questions on personal charts, but I'll take any other question. Feel free to text them in. I'll do my best to reply to all of them. Hello, Jessa. Jasmina, one of my students. Bless you. Hi from New Zealand too. Yeah. Oh, blimey, they're all piling in here now. Rainy London. Yeah, tell me about it. California. Oh, you have no idea how lucky you are. Iowa. Wow, I got followers in Iowa. Okay. Romania, Seattle. Oh, I love it. Bucharest, yeah. Catalina, Bucharest. Hiya. Catherine. Oh, so many of my students and people I know and clients are here. Nice to see you. Right, piling in now. Poland, Spain. Yeah, okay. Where's the questions then? Come on. Sensible questions. Antwerp, Nova Scotia, Cork, of course. Damien, yeah. Lots of French. Hello, hello, France. How were the holidays? I don't know. I was too busy working, doing the New Year forecasts. Any insights on the upcoming new moon in Capricorn? Not really, because I think it's going to be a fairly tame new moon. But shortly after that, we've got the Sun conjunct Pluto at 29 degrees 59 of Capricorn. And then straight after that, the Sun will move into Aquarius within an hour. And within 12 hours after that, Pluto will move into Aquarius. And that's going to be a monumental time. And that's the 20th and the 21st of January. That's going to be massive. That's going to affect a lot of situations in the world. So you may need to hold your breath at that time. Yep, still flooding in Dublin, Wimbledon. How to make the most of Taurus transiting the ascendant? That doesn't make sense. Taurus doesn't make a transit. I'd like to know if and when these awful people involved with Jeffrey Epstein will get their just desserts. Some of you may know that I made a prediction on YouTube about Jeffrey Epstein a few years ago about his upcoming death, and he died within a week of me putting that video up live. And I've since been approached by a number of television stations very recently in the last few days, bearing in mind this list is coming out, and I don't really want to work with them because they just treat astrology as a joke. So but do I think these people will get their just desserts? They will get named and shamed in public. They will be seen to be corrupt and amoral. And that is as big a punishment, much worse than fining them. Whether they'll go to prison or not, I don't know. And there's a number of very, very well-known people here, and their public image is going to be destroyed. And the court of the public image is the biggest area of shame. Any comments on the next American election? It's going to happen in a Mars retrograde shadow. Mars is going retrograde in early December, and it will retrograde back over the area that it starts in early November in. It's going to be a weird one, but I think whatever happens in the American election, there's going to be massive changes in America over the coming few years. It's America's Pluto return. So I can't help but feel that the large countries are going to have to diversify into smaller blocks to be manageable. So the days of two-party politics in America, I believe, are coming to an end. There's a court case around the 11th at the ICC with a ruling due a week after, which is due on the 19th to the 21st. ICC, I guess that's International Criminal Court. But I don't know what that's in connection with. That's Jan. Can you be a bit more clear about what that's in connection with, please? Can we do a deep dive on the first big event on 24, coming up on the 21st, 22nd of Jan? Look, I've just mentioned that. It's the start of Pluto in Aquarius. The negative side of Pluto in Aquarius is that the power blocks are going to get stronger and stronger in their attempts to seize the narrative, to control the media and the big businesses. The neutral side of this is that individuals are slowly but steadily going to become more and more aware of their own psychology. And the positive side of this is that we're going to see a greater and stronger pull over the next few years towards a larger, more holistic community, where we're going to see potentially the end of nation states, the end of borders, and a more broader community based on consensus, I hope, rather than politics. I'm certainly not going to offer any comments on individual states, let alone Texas. Texas is a unique state. They pride themselves on being unique, and I believe that most of America prides them on being unique as well. Read into that comment as you will. But Texas is an interesting place to be. I'm going to say no more than that about Texas. I have too many friends there, and I don't wish to upset them. Did I have a look at the chart of the EU? No, I didn't. I haven't looked at the chart of the EU for a couple of years, I'm sorry to say. So I'm not familiar with it at the moment. I do suspect that with that Sun-Pluto conjunction coming up on the 21st of January, there's going to be a growing intensity in the short term in the European field of warfare. I'm talking mainly about Ukraine and Russia, deliberately not taking sides or casting opinions on this, but I do expect an intense reaction around that time, not to an extreme, but close to, and then it should hopefully start easing up. You're very curious about that conjunction. So am I. Any insights on when EUR is most likely to collapse? EUR, I presume you mean the euro or Europe? I don't think it will collapse. Of course not. Since the 70s, when I started doing astrology, everyone's been telling me that there's going to be a financial crash. And every time there has been a financial crash, it's bounced back. I don't think that the dollar, the pound, the euro can ever really collapse. There's too much invested interest into it. It can go down big time as individual national economies tank. And that is something that's quite feasibly going to be happening over the next couple of years. We're heading into the biggest period of compressed and concentrated change astrologically that there's ever been in human history. And the next couple of years are going to be absolutely pivotal in determining how things are going to be for 50 years on from there. Do I think that Pluto going into Aquarius will be a good thing long term? I have to say yes, simply because Pluto in Capricorn has been so damn difficult for so many people. I have to think that Pluto in Aquarius long term will be a good thing, but it is going to be in Aquarius for sort of 15, 16 years at least. So it's going to be a long term process. The eclipse in April 2024, particularly over America, you get eclipses every year or every other year, eclipses of the sun, every 2 years. I do think that this eclipse over America on the 8th of April 2024 is going to be seen as a kind of symbol of breakdown in America, and that there's going to be some type of, it's not going to lead to disorder or violence or craziness, but I do think it's going to lead to the end of the old system of politics in America as we've known it. So what do I think about the start of 24? The aircraft crash, the earthquake. Yeah, that was pretty bad. And you've got to find compassion and empathy, especially for the people in the airplane who died, as well as the numbers of people who died on the earthquake. But it could have been so much worse. The nuclear power station in the earthquake zone went offline the day before the earthquake for annual cleansing. So I'm really glad that happened. What's your take on Saturn in Pisces? I suggest that one of the side effects of Saturn in Pisces is it's going to make us far more aware individually and collectively about the environmental degradation, particularly with regard to the deep seas, the amount of plastic in the seas, and the effects of the oil that we're bleeding from the earth. If you think of the earth as a whole being, then the oil is like the blood of the earth, or the tendons and the ligaments in between the bones. And by sucking all the oil out, we're just leaving bare rock to compress against each other. So I don't think it's a good thing long term. Having said that, I live in a country where for the first time ever last year, we produced more electricity in May of last year through wind power than through coal or nuclear. We've got brilliant wind power here, and I'm very privileged to live in Britain. I read so much on a blog post, and I join you. Pluto and Capricorn is very difficult. I'm looking forward to whatever it brings. Why worry now? We should love harder and create better. Bit simplistic, but absolutely right. The effect and the influence of compassion, empathy, love, kindness, generosity is vastly underrated. I'm not talking about it in a hippy-dippy woo-woo way, because that's just flaky. But the idea of putting compassion into your work in every sense of the word, it makes your life simpler, makes the world a better place, and you put compassion into other people, they spread it around, the world becomes a better place. Or maybe I'm just a hippie who wants the world to be a better place, and I'll dream anything in. I don't know. But if I am kidding myself, I'm happy. I think we need a bit of not only love and compassion, but also laughter in the world. Which sign house rulerships do you find works best when forecasting, modern or traditional? Definitely modern. In traditional astrology, the outer planets don't work. And you have Mars ruling Scorpio and Jupiter ruling Pisces and Saturn ruling Aquarius. Whereas in modern astrology, Uranus rules Aquarius, Pluto rules Scorpio, and Neptune rules Pisces. And to me, it's modern. There are astrologers out there who won't use the outer planets, let alone Chiron or Ceres. To me, this is just anathema. I can't work with that. So I'm a modernist. Hi, Steve. It's John, one of the other readers. Do you think the planetary shift will have any effect on how thin the veil has been recently between the spirit world and our world? Yes, I think that's a bit of a twee assumption, But yes, the movement of all of the outer planets, Pluto into Aquarius, Uranus into Gemini, Saturn and Neptune into Aries, and Jupiter into Leo, all within a year or so of each other, all the big five moving from masculine into feminine. This has, from feminine into masculine, this has never happened before, ever. No, not in history, in the whole of history. This represents at the end of our apprenticeship as a species, and we're going to graduate and move into a much greater consciousness where intuition, telepathy, compassion are going to become much more a lucid form of communication rather than just logic and rationality. And this is all coming up within the next 2 or 3 years. And of course, there's a big vested interest in the power blocks to repress that, because at the moment they've got all the money and all the power and they want to keep that way. Can I explain the significance of the Sun-Moon conjunction in a solar progressed chart, please? Solar progressed chart. Yeah. Okay. The Sun, in a progressed chart, the Sun moves 1 degree a year, and it deals with personal growth of identity. The progressed moon moves 12 to 13 degrees a year, or 1 degree a month. That deals with the internal emotional situation. So the progressed moon and the progressed sun will land on top of each other once every 29.5 to 30 years. That is an internal progressed new moon, and it's indicative of an internal fresh start and new beginning inside yourself. I get confused about Vedic and sidereal astrology. Could you explain briefly? I practice tropical astrology, not sidereal. I think I've got that right way around. Vedic astrology comes from the East. I'm a Western astrologer. And the prime difference here, apart from the mathematical mechanics of it, is that Vedic astrology is more in tune with words like fate, destiny, and predetermination, whereas Western astrology is often more associated with words like free will, choice, and self-determination. I'm much more of a free will astrologer than I am a fatalistic one. Will the total eclipse in April have any effect on the red states in the USA? It's going to have an effect on the whole of the US of A. The USA is changing radically, and the left and right have pulled so far apart now, this almost visceral hatred between them. And you can blame individuals for this, but what a waste of energy. Instead, you just got to hope and pray that common sense, America needs a common sense, middle of the road alternative to the extremes of politics. Do I agree with a lot of astrologers and numerologists saying that 2024 is going to be a time of destroying governments, businesses, jobs to build back new? A lot of people are scared. No, I don't agree. I don't see anarchy, apocalypse, catastrophe, disaster. I do see massive change, and those people that can adapt will flourish and prosper and thrive. And those people that can't will gradually die off. Can I explain the aspects of transit Pluto to natal sun? I think that was. Well, transform or die, regenerate, rebirth, detox, purge, eliminate, purify, phoenix from the ashes, caterpillar into butterfly, snake shedding skin. Or if you want to go down the negative room, fear, phobia, paranoia, obsessive, compulsive, intense, and extreme. But believe me, it's far better to willingly go into your own dark and explore your own psychology, or you can be dragged kicking and screaming into it. Not much choice with Pluto. Lots of people are talking about the importance of 25-26. Is there anything in astrology that correlates with that? Absolutely. It is the single most important period in astrological history. And I've traced this back 7,000 to 8,000 years. There's been nothing like this time ever. And it's going to determine the next half century at least. What else have we got? We can't go on as we are. We're destroying Gaia and us as human beings. We must dance with a change. Yes. And dancing is absolutely brilliant therapy because it blends the physical with the spiritual. And so does yoga and Tai Chi and Qigong and swimming. But dancing is free. And it's such good therapy. I love dancing. We're going to talk about the significance of intercepted houses in a natal chart, intercepted houses and intercepted signs. They generally have slightly less influence than normal signs or houses. I don't think it's as big a difference as most people like to think they are. I don't think it's that relevant. And of course, with intercepted houses, a lot depends on the latitude you were born at. Whew, right. 20 minutes gone, 40 minutes to go. We're in and I'm flowing. Bring the questions on. I'm enjoying this so far. I hope you guys are. I'm on my third coffee of the day. And that'll be that with coffee. Otherwise, I'll be up all night. Dancing and laughing, so good for the soul and the immune system. Absolutely. Do I read the movements of the vertex? The answer to that is no. When you calculate the vertex, which is a mathematically worked out point, it is not a lump of rock or gas in space. It is a mathematically worked out point. And I know the ascendant and the midheaven and the north node are mathematically worked out points, but they go round the chart. The vertex can only be in the 5th, 6th, 7th, or 8th houses. It's always close to the descendant. If it was able to go through the other houses, I'd look at it, but it can't. It has to stay on the right-hand side of the chart. Therefore, I don't credit it with that much relevance. Students, you've got plenty of time. Go and play with a vertex, see if it works. I'm a practitioner. I don't have time to look at this type of stuff, unfortunately. I love your Cornish ware mug, Steve. That's the newish red color. Yeah, well, as you get older, as you got less and less time in front of you, so you want quality in your life. When you do your yearly and monthly sun sign videos, are you placing the zodiac sign in the role of the ascendant in the chart? Excellent question. Sometimes is the answer. Not all the time, but sometimes. Oh, it's David. Hello, David. I know we know each other well. He made the journey from America to the UK to come and visit me quite a few years ago. Fair play to you, mate. What natal placements make for a good practicing astrologer? There is no pattern that says you would make a good astrologer, but there are certain planets that are strong. And if you've got them in your chart, you will have a natural affinity with astrology. People say that Uranus is the planet of astrology. Others say that Mercury is the planet of astrology. To me, it is Saturn, old father time. If you have a strong Saturn in your chart, by which I mean strongly aspecting the sun, the moon, the ascendant, Mercury, maybe Venus or Mars, and it's a tight orb, then you're going to naturally tune into the movement of the planets and the movement of time, because Saturn used to be called Kronos, the god of time, from where we get the word chronometer, timepiece. What orbs do you use in astrocartography? Ooh, that's a good question. Very tight ones is the answer. 1.5 degrees, which depending on the latitude you're at, relates to anywhere between 50 to 100 miles away from the lines in astrocartography. For those of you that don't know astrocartography, it's about superimposing your horoscope on a map of the globe to find the best and the worst place in the world for relationships, career, residence. And it is surprisingly accurate. 20% of my business is now astrocartography. Dancing is great. Unless you have my rhythm, then not so great. Hey, everyone can dance. It's called dance when no one's watching. Then no one can judge you. Right. Oh, a few people saying hello to each other. Yeah, this is great. I'm loving this. I think we might have to do this a bit more regularly. Do I think the UK will finally get an election this year? Sunak is finished. I'm not going to get drawn into political commentation because that's not my role. But the horoscope of Rishi Sunak, his sun is at 21 degrees of Taurus, and there is a really massive conjunction of Jupiter and Uranus coming up at 21 degrees of Taurus in the 3rd week of April. So I do think there's got to be an election in the UK within the next 12 to 15 months. And I think it's going to be a very interesting one, and it's going to cause a lot of upsets. What Why have double Libras had such a difficult time in the last 5 years? Be careful now, because otherwise you're going to invoke my evil twin brother. My evil twin brother is the caustic astrologer, and he has no mercy. And if you say to me, do I think double Libras are having a hard time? I say yes, because they're so good at feeling sorry for themselves and they can't make blooming decisions. Forewarned is forearmed. I dance with my pug. She loves it. Great. Well, dogs make great dancers. Economy view, sir? Well, as I said earlier, I've been hearing that the economy is going to tank for the last 50 years, and somehow it lurches on. Long ago, Joe and Bob lived next to each other in two caves, and they both had sheep, but Joe wanted to go to the city and I'd go and have a few beers. So he said to Bob, look after my sheep. And Bob said, how do I know which sheep are yours and mine? So Bob put a tag on his sheep and said, look, here's a bit of paper saying they're mine. And he never came back from a city. So Bob had these two herds of sheep and he said, I can't look after these. Look, here's a tag on these sheep. Do you want to swap it for some food? So he gave to someone else the tag and the sheep. And then that tag got sold on and sold on and sold on. And then it became money. Money is always going to be around in some shape or form. Stick with the double Libras, please. Yeah. Any double sign doesn't always mean that you're truly representative of that sign. You can be the sun and the moon in one sign and then have nothing else in it. You can be a double Libra with the sun and the moon in Libra, and then have Mercury, Venus, Mars, and Saturn in the next door sign of Scorpio or Virgo. So you'll show much more evidence of that sign. It's a lot more complicated than the newspapers say it is. Whew. Next. What advice would you give to someone who knows nothing about it but wants to learn astrology? I would give you two bits of advice. One is go and buy a Teach Yourself Astrology book. And the best book that I know, the most modern textbook on teaching astrology, is called Astrology Decoded by Sue Fairbrother, F-A-R-E, brother. She did the MA with me a long time ago. She's dead now, unfortunately, but it's a recent book and it's the best Teach Yourself Astrology book out there. Alternatively, study with me. I teach beginners, intermediate and advanced courses every year. I'm starting the next one at the end of February, and all you need to do is email me and I'll put you on the list and send all the words to you. What's your take on yods? To me, Yod, or the finger of fate, as it's called, creates a situation where it's like a permanent itch you can't scratch. It's not big enough problem to be sorted out, but it's too big a problem to just ignore. So you're kind of stuck with it. And the key words for a Yod are very much compromise. It's where you have to compromise both with others and with yourself. What's your advice for those of us experiencing our Saturn returns at this time? You've got two choices with your Saturn return. You can spend 9 months bitching, whinging, and complaining about how tired you are, how unsupported you feel, how alone you are, and do the poor me in bed, and then the bed will collapse on you. Or you can do what Saturn says, and says do everything the hard way, 3 steps forward, 2 steps back, establish, consolidate, no shortcuts, do everything thoroughly and properly, take your time. And if you do it this way with lots of hard work, you will put in place roots and foundations which will set you up for the next 29 to 30 years. Saturn says, do it the hard way. You'll always get it right. What does a grand trine in a chart mean? It's not always as good as you'd think. You'd think that with a grand trine, there's a lot of fortune and luck, but it can also make you a bit complacent. It does give you very good skills. It gives you a natural, harmonious flow of energy, which makes it very easy for you to get on with the world. But there's also called this thing around complacency, where you can go, oh, mañana, and can make you a bit lazy. Juno, one of the asteroids. Yeah, Juno has taken a lot of the heat out of Venus now. Juno is very much around relationship. Juno is the Roman version of the Greek Hera. And Hera was the wife of Jupiter, the scorned wife of Jupiter. So Juno is very much around relationships. I I have to do this. It's a lovely bit of flattery. Definitely recommend Steve Class's and his books. The latest Pluto is the one I go to daily for astrology. That's The Law of Pluto, Exploring the Void by Steve Judd. Available in all good bookshops, or if you want signed copies from me. I've also taken multiple courses with Steve. The key here is his practicality. He translates hippie speak into utility. Mate, you're going to embarrass me. You keep giving me compliments like this. Do quincunxes matter when you do forecasting? Yes, but only if they've got one orb. I'm really tight with my orbs. You give big orbs, you're going to end up with a spider's web. You give really tight orbs, you get to the key aspects, the ones that really matter. The Leo full moon later this month. Yeah, 5 degrees of Leo. That is going to set the scene, because at the end of this year, Mars will go retrograde and it will stand still for a month at 5 and 6 degrees of Leo. So this full moon is going to have repercussions right the way through to the end of the year in December. While I'm at it, that's not the only one. That's my pension, the bedroom astrologer. An in between the sheets user's guide to the sexual preferences of each sign of a zodiac. I wrote that over a few months when I just thought, I'm bored, what should I do? And that's about 10 years ago, but that's the updated 2023 version. We're giving you lots of love and compliments so the evil twin brother stays quiet. For those very few of you who have seen the caustic astrologer in action, you're very wise to keep him under lock and key. There is a video, I don't think it's on YouTube, I think it's on the birth of a caustic astrologer, when I was put on stage in front of about 1,000 drunks trying to teach them astrology. And after 5 minutes, I just lost it. And I started insulting them. And that's when the tomatoes and the beer started flying. But that was the birth of the caustic astrologer. And since then, he's developed into a stand-up comedian insulting people according to their birth signs. Interesting comments on the video I did with Jasmina. Yeah, that was great. She's a damn good astrologer. The bedroom astrologer is so funny, but also informative, unique in the market. Thank you. We love the caustic astrologer from No One You Know. Yeah, love the name. Love the name. Sue Brothers Astrology Decoded is great. Her follow-up book, Astrology Forecasting, is equally great. Juno opposite Mars would be similar to Venus opposite Mars. Juno opposite Mars is going to be more about the physical, the sexual side of a relationship, whereas Venus opposite Mars is going to be more about the difference between sensuality of Venus and sexuality of Mars. Jasmina is an amazing astrologer. Yes, she is. Yes, she is. One day she's going to be one of the people who takes over from me. I'm waiting for the caustic astrologer to give his take on Cancerians. Well, as you know, I am one of those shy, gentle, insecure, inconfident Cancerians. So you're not going to get it on this broadcast. I'm not going to let him out, not on this broadcast. I may have a chat with the people who run Ask the Answer and do a one-time special, but I'll probably have to record it. Oh, come on. I've just seen this come in. Granny Weatherwax says she the YouTube a bit more. For those of you who don't know Granny Weatherwax, you have no idea what you're missing. I know who you are. I'll be after you later. If you think Granny Weatherwax is good, you want to watch the Knack McFeagle. Right, bedroom astrologer was spot on for Virgo. A lover in the past was Pisces, the best lovemaking I've ever had. Whoa, too much information. Too much. Do you want to discuss your private sexual life on YouTube? Come on. How often do I recommend a personal reading? I normally say I leave it up to the clients. 50% of my clients will come back once a year for half an hour or an hour. 25% will come back every 6 months. The other 25% will come back whenever they feel like it. You always leave it up to the client. It's very tempting to say, okay, I recommend you to come back in 6 months because then you know you've got guaranteed income. But you don't want to push people. You leave it up to them. Empower them to make decisions for themselves. The role of the astrologer is not just about making money or doing a service for others. It's about catalyzing and empowering other people to make decisions and choices for themselves. Now, as I said earlier, I'm not going to answer questions on personal charts. It's boring for everyone else to listen to. But the general questions on astrology that are coming in here, without wishing to patronize you all, they're much more intelligent than I expected. I expected people to go, oh, when am I going to meet my perfect soulmate or something like that, which is just like, oh, so 1970s, come on. But some of these questions are really intelligent. I'm grateful for it. Thank you. So many questions. I know I haven't answered all of them because they've been coming through so fast. But let's see, what else have we got? Granny Weatherwax. Will the Earth be better this decade? Well, with more and more people being born all the time, more and more plastic, more and more ignorance, more and more alcohol, more and more processed food, go figure. Is exalted Saturn kinder than Saturn in detriment? Probably yes. What transit are you most excited about in 2024? That's a really good question. The Jupiter-Uranus one is exciting, but it's also quite dangerous. That's happening in the 3rd week of April, and that's going to have massive repercussions in... I have to be careful what I say here because I don't want to upset people. So let me just retreat into absolutely rock solid astrology. The Jupiter-Uranus conjunction in the 3rd week of April 2024 is happening at 21 degrees of Taurus. Hopes of both Israel and Palestine have 21 degrees of Taurus as their sun sign, as their sun degree. So it's pretty clear to me that that 3rd week of April is going to have a big impact on the situation in Israel and Palestine. Beyond that, I'm not going to say any more. Great to see you on a live stream, Steve. Yeah, great too. Other transits, I'm actually quite looking forward to Jupiter in Gemini. I know it rules the opposite sign, Sagittarius, but it should bring a lot clearer communication, a lot better, a lot more responsible media, I hope. Less of the doom and gloom and terror and fear that's perpetuated in the media in an effort to terrorize people into submission and subservience, and hopefully a bit better media. That would be the ideal. When interpreting a chart, what do you recommend when discussing difficult aspects? I'm different to most other astrologers. I go straight in and I give them the bad news, and then I give them the alternative positive way of manifesting it. So I hit them hard and then I cheer them up and make them laugh. There's always an equally strong positive opposite alternative to the difficult challenges. Same as the positive aspects can also have a shadow side if you don't choose to manifest them positively. The planets impel, they don't compel. The horoscope does not make you behave in a certain way or do certain things. It gives you the opportunity to progress or regress. And if you choose to take it, you'll thrive. And if you don't choose to take it, you'll stay the same. But that leads to stagnation and decay. How do I know what to recommend? That's simple. I've been doing it 45 years. Sean. Nice one, mate. How do I know what to recommend? Because I've been doing it 45 years, and the only way to learn astrology is practice, practice, practice. What determines a country's birth chart? A declaration of independence or a change of regime? China's birth chart happened when Mao Zedong went onto the balcony in Beijing and said, I proclaim the National Council of China. Israel's horoscope was born when I think it was Moshe Dayan, I forget his name, banged the table with his hammer and said, I proclaim the state of Israel. America's horoscope was done when the rebels signed the Declaration of Independence. It's called the Sibley chart. Every nation's chart is different. Are there astrological indicators that suggest significant advances in technology? Yes, there really are. And I think that Pluto moving into Aquarius and then Uranus moving into Gemini and Jupiter moving into Gemini this year is going to really speed up the pace of technological development, and it's going to speed our brains up in the ways we work with this. Now, I'm going to be a bit contentious here. A lot of people who aren't that, a lot of people are scared of AI. The genie's out the bottle. I'm already working with astrologers who are trying to train AI to experience compassion and empathy in their chart readings, because AI is already being used by certain sun sign astrologers to write their forecasts. I'm not going to name names. I think it's possible to train AI to not so much experience, but evaluate things like compassion, empathy, kindness, generosity. And if we can do that, then I see no reason why AI shouldn't work in and with astrology, but it will never be able to synthesize charts. That is the human prerogative. What do I think of intercepted charts, or is it all about whole house charts? I answered that earlier. Intercepted charts. Nah, I don't do whole house charts. I use porphyry house system. It's the simplest one. You can work it out in your head. If I had 2 minutes with the most powerful and influential people at this present time, what would be my message to them? I talk to them about ethics, morals, their moral compass, and ask them, do they want to be remembered for being strong and powerful, or do they want it as being loved, kind, and generous? And if I gave the wrong answer, I'd probably kick them. Right. What do you think of the photonic light pouring onto Earth? Is this linked with any astrology? I have no idea. I don't know what photonic light is. I've never heard of it. I'm familiar with the photon belt and the ideas of it. That's been around 30 years. Every year there's something new like this comes up. Maybe I'm just old and tired and bored and long in the tooth, but every year there's a new phase or a new fad or a new big thing that's going to change the future. I've been going in crop circles since the mid 80s. I still go in them every year. They're real. I know they're real. But all this stuff that's just, okay, I saw it on YouTube. I read about it in a magazine. Where's the proof? Where's the physical evidence? I'm an astrologer. I'm already off planet enough. I need down-to-earth, grounded, solid material to judge things on. That's why, to me, crop circles are real, because I've been in hundreds of them. I know that kindness is everything. Yes. When reading a chart, do you look for a particular aspect first? Yes, I always look at the conjunctions first and the oppositions second. And then the rest comes next. But conjunctions, because they give a power source, a source of power. What was your opinion of the crop circles this year? Well, they're getting fewer and fewer now. The circles are closing down. But the complexity is still the same as it's always been. It's getting stronger. The meaning is clear. And I'm not going to get too deeply into it because my understanding of it would be contentious to many people. But I see them as great spiritual messages. How might planetary movements influence humanity's quest for higher consciousness? In an absolutely massive way. Like I said, the planets impel, they don't compel, but they're going to provide. The planets emanate energies, and if you doubt this, you can hear Jupiter on the shortwave. The moon affects the animals and the oysters. You can feel, you can hear the influence of Jupiter on the radio. So, we can prove that the planets give out radiation, give out energy, which affect the Earth in some minute way. And if it affects the Earth, it affects us. And the energy fields of the cosmos that the planet is in at any given time have different frequencies, which is the science behind astrology. It's a bit flaky. if I could explain it rationally, I wouldn't do astrology anymore because it would be too easily explainable. I like the unknown and the unknowable, but it does suggest that higher consciousness, the acceleration of evolution that we're currently in is approaching exponential curve. We're about to go off the scale. That's why this time is, every generation who's ever lived says that this is the most important time in human history. This is. When a person say, okay, but do transiting or natal energies top the other? The natal chart is the blueprint of potential. The birth chart is a blueprint of potential. That's what it is. The transits to that blueprint will bring windows of opportunity or challenges in a way that will be brief for a few days or long term for a year, but not permanent. Then they'll disappear and the blueprint will still be the same, but it will be enhanced by the transit or the progression. It's a naturally evolving and growing thing, and the blueprint will change from the birth chart when you're born, which is a two-dimensional bit of paper with symbols on it, into something that becomes three and more than three-dimensional as you progress, evolve, and change for the positive. Do I believe we've been visited by light beings? I don't do ETs or UFOs or aliens. To me, that's just yet another hype and spin and desire and putting the wool over our eyes. I do different dimensions of consciousness. For example, I don't do death. When you die, you just shift into a different dimension of existence. And yes, I do believe that the different dimensions of existence have portals into this space-time continuum. Where do you think the crop circles come from? So I don't do ETs, no. But do I think light beings are coming here? Yes. But what you probably call light beings and what I call light beings may be different. Do I think this evolution of humankind will come to an apex in our lifetime? We're approaching a nexus point. And that nexus point will be a few years. And when we get through that, a lot of people will evolve and some won't. And we're approaching a shift point in consciousness, which is going to change things forever. Is a situation where in 500 years humanity won't exist and something new will spring up. Do transits and progressions from and to Chiron work in your experience? Transits and progressions to Chiron work, but Chiron by transit, in my experience, doesn't work. What's your opinion on the links between tarot and astrology, please? I've got to be careful with this one because I'm working with Ask the Answer, where there's a lot of good tarot readers. I use astrology because it's a mixture of mathematics, geometry, psychology, and intuition. And you haven't got them, you can't do astrology. But it's a mixture of art and science. Most of the other divinatory arts are primarily intuitive. That's why I choose astrology, because I like the maths and particularly the celestial and the sacred geometry that goes with it. That sings to me. Is there a standard approach to mitigate serious bad charts? The more challenging a chart is, the harder your life is when young, but the bigger potential there is for success when old. The easier charts, yeah, they get the girl, they get the guy, they get the kids and the house and the job and the career, but they never really become that happy. You have to struggle for happiness in this life. And the more difficult a chart is, the harder your life when young, but the happier and the more successful you become when old. That's my experience. Do I think karma influences the chart of an individual, that they choose the date and time of their birth as a soul? Two separate questions. I don't do karma. Karma is an Eastern invention based on guilt. If you suffer this lifetime, you'll have a better life next lifetime. I'm too busy this lifetime, and I want to be a guilt-free zone. So I'm not going to get into karma. Instead of karma, I use words like purpose, mission statement, and reason why you volunteered to come to planet Earth in the first place. And if you do, obviously, if there's no death, if there's life after death, then there's life before birth. So yes, souls can choose the date, time, and place of their birth, and even their parents. And that brings into question the whole nature of time. In this dimension, time flows linearly, but in the fourth, fifth, extra dimensions, time as we understand it does not flow linearly, timeless time, and that's different. God, I'm rocking. This is great. Come on, we've got 10 minutes left. How can astrology contribute to discussions about climate change and ecological concerns? Right, really good question. It can't in itself solely focus on those two things, climate change and ecological concerns. But these are questions that affect all of us as a human level. And it can affect the individuals who are empowered to make changes. So when you see individuals promising in 10 years' time to lower the Earth's temperature by 1.5 degrees, you think, rubbish. You're just pushing this further on down the line to continue making money for yourself. Where's your ethics? Where's your morals? And you can appeal to people's higher conscience and ask themselves, do you want to be remembered as a planetary destroyer, or do you want to be remembered as a planetary savior? Every choice has consequence, absolutely. Do twins decide beforehand to come to Earth? I've seen the charts of identical twins, which are only 1 minute apart, and as they age, they get more and more different. Do I notice anything different in the charts of younger generations? Yes. On the one hand, there's a lot more labelism. There's a lot more labels out there, and I'm not going to go into that because when I was a kid, there was no processed food. There was no labels. There was no diabetes. There was very little cancer. There was no ADHD or autism. Now it's a lot more common. On the one hand, humans are getting weaker. On the other hand, they're getting a lot more intelligent. What is the defining trait of the age of Aquarius? The search and the need for a greater community. Are the major shifts in the awareness of humanity coming because of a global catastrophe, or are we going to find new and innovative ways of working together? Great question, Michelle. I think it's probably a mixture of both. There will be further environmental catastrophes, but hopefully this will push us into solution in a way that takes out the control freakery and the money and the power, and instead appeals to the common sense and the consensus of humanity. Are stelliums in a birth chart as important as the sun, rising, and moon? Not always, but often, yes. What is a stellium? Where you've got 3 or 4 planets all within 2 or 3 degrees of each other. It's a power point in a chart. What dates am I looking forward to this year? Well, I'm not going to answer that, but what I am going to say is that in all the readings I've done for 2024, in 85% of the charts I've done, I'm seeing situations where by the time we're into the end of May, I'm saying to most people that 80% of the challenges of this year are over by the end of May. The second half of this year is going to be a lot easier. What's your take on the masculine energy shift in the coming 2 or 3 years? I've answered that a few times, as I've answered questions about Vedic astrology. It says that the shift into the masculine signs is going to actually encourage us to remember the feminine and to embrace the sacred within us all, regardless of your genders. There's so many of them these days. Vedic astrology, I don't practice it. I'm a Western astrologer, not an Eastern astrologer. It works. If I go to India, I'm going to talk to a Vedic astrologer. In the West, I'll talk to a Western astrologer. Breathe. Right. It's so good to see so many of my friends, colleagues, clients, students here. It's lovely. I didn't broadcast any of this. I didn't know this was going to happen like this. Thank you. I sense the energy getting tenser. I work in a multinational of operations already of the world, all over the world. The mood is tense. Is there a reflection in this in astrology? The next few years are going to get faster and faster. By the time we're into the late 26, we're going to get an answer to this one way or the other. The wokeness thing, it's a fad. It's a phase. Who'd heard of wokeness 2 years ago? 2 years' time, there'll be something else. It's a fad. We look back 50 years, you'll see lots of things like this. And it starts off with very good intentions, but by the time the media get hold of it, it's been corrupted. I'm not anti-media. I'm anti the people who set the media's agendas and narratives, because they're trying to breed fear and split us into more and more isolated groups rather than allow us to become a homogenous community, which is the necessity for the future. We don't like wokeness, but we don't want people to go back to sleep either. Absolutely correct. Edgar Cayce says that 2048 is the next 2012. 2048, I'll be 93 years old. I probably won't be here. And I don't know that 2048 is a bit late. 19th of January is the ICJ hearing in The Hague for Israel genocide. That's going to be interesting. Right, on that Sun-Pluto conjunction. The world is gearing up to a place where we definitely need to be pragmatic. Yes. Absolutely. It's no point in sitting on the fence. There's no point in doing things by half measures anymore. Act with a clean conscience. Be true to yourself. Speak from the heart. Do your best. You're not being asked to be successful. You're being asked to do your best. My personal philosophy on all of these things is, if you always tell the truth, then you never have to remember what you said. It's simple. Not simple, stupid, but simple as in not complicated. As I get older, I want to become more and more simple. It's weird. I've spent 45 years studying astrology now, and for 35 of them, I was in abject poverty. Now I'm finally becoming a bit more successful. I'm trying to retire, and I'm never going to retire. How can I retire? I'm doing what I love. I want astrology to be taught in schools. If astrology was taught in schools, within 2 generations, we'd see an end to warfare. If astrology and psychology were taught in schools, everyone would be a lot happier. Trust me, this is true. Sitting on the fence, you get a sore bum. Absolutely. Love it. Love it. Love all the compliments. Thank you. I'm getting well flattered here. I am a herbalist, and it took me until my 40s to realize I think humanity is doing too little too late. Yes, but don't give up on hope. Hope is one of the best tools we have. If you give up hope, then you're lost. Right, we're coming up to the last couple of minutes. I'll take a few more. I'll tell you what, though, folks, if you can't laugh, you're lost. Bring the humor in. My catchphrase, as those of you who have ever received an email from me, for the last 15, 20 years, I've been using on I had an email in 1998. It was great. It was way ahead of the curve. My catchphrase has always been, negativity can't exist where there's humor. Laughter brings hope, optimism, faith, belief, and humor. We're the only species who can laugh at ourselves. We're radically different to anything that's ever happened before. Therefore, we're being pulled forward. There's some type of magnet in the future that's pulling us forward. And that future is based on accelerated evolution, spiritual growth, compassion, kindness from a pragmatic, down-to-earth, grounded level. I remain very positive and hopeful for the future. Don't buy into the media. Don't buy into the hype and spin of the negativity that's around. I think astrology is going to become the new lingua franca of the emerging consciousness revolution. I encourage everyone to learn astrology. Look at where astrology is now compared to even 10 years ago. And watch this space, because I'm going to be doing big things with astrology in the next 18 months. I'm not going to say any more than that, but there's some big projects coming up, and I want to be at the very cutting edge of it. So watch this space. Right, I think we'll stop taking comments now because we've got 30 seconds left. I'm just going to say, look, if you want to study astrology, you know how to get hold of me. I'm easily findable. I am a good teacher. You can tell by the comments. But really, even if you don't study it to learn it, take it on, because it brings such a good insight. Astrology and psychology are the tools which are going to shape the future for individuals who want to aspire into spiritual growth. Stick with it. Love it. Take care, folks. Lots of love.